members of the committee. My name is Jerry Fuentes. I'm with the Industrial Hemp Coalition. With me today is Nikki Anaya, who's a member of the Industrial Hemp Coalition. Ruth Farba, who's an entrepreneur and also a member of the Industrial Hemp Coalition, but she also runs House Hemp, and also Associate Professor Kevin Lombard from Mexico State University out of Farmington. We've been working with the legislature trying to pass a hemp bill and legalize hemp in New Mexico. The Mexico Industrial Hemp Coalition is a group of people, citizen advocates, trying to create an industrial hemp economy in New Mexico for our farmers and our entrepreneurs. We've been passing laws. If you can see in one of your packets, you see this 2012 Mexico State study on industrial hemp. This was done for our efforts here, and your efforts also. We want to thank you for that. What we want to do is, we want to let you know that hemp is not marijuana. It's not a drug. Industrial hemp is less than 1% of THC. That is the international standard that they set, and the United States standard is 0.03%, less than 1%. Marijuana contains typically from 6% to up to 20% of THC. We are wanting to grow hemp because it's legal now in 10 other states to do this. 10 other states have passed laws in the United States allowing them to do research and to grow industrial hemp. The past year, the Farm Bill passed a resolution in the Farm Bill allowing for states who had passed a hemp bill to allow them to do research on industrial hemp. New Mexico does not have a hemp bill. This is what we're looking at. We would like to have pass a hemp bill so New Mexico State could do some hemp research. We could develop the right kinds of plants for New Mexico, and it's a huge economy. It's a $5 billion a year imported economy. We import $500 million a year from other countries for hemp. Hemp is legal in 30 other countries, and like I said, 10 other states have passed this law. With that, we would like to just make sure that you know that we are going to be trying to pass an industrial hemp law here in New Mexico through the legislature. We're not going to be trying it through the constitutional amendment. We're going to try it through the legislature, and we're going to let it stand on its own merits. It will not be connected with marijuana because hemp is its own plant and it's its own economic development. It's got its own economic development conditions other than marijuana. With that, I'd like to introduce Mickey Anaya. She will talk to you about the economics on industrial.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come forward to talk about industrial hemp. As Jerry mentioned, currently all of the hemp products that are sold in the United States are either imported or they're created from hemp imports. So most of this import is coming from Canada. For example, Honor Soap Company, which is based in California, includes hemp oil in their entire line of 26 soaps. So the company has estimated that they import roughly 20 tons of organic hemp oil, and again, all of that is coming from Canada. As Jerry mentioned, in 2012, the industrial hemp industry was a $500 million value, and the majority of that is in different kinds of hemp-based products, such as non-dairy milk, soaps, lotions, clothing, auto parts, building materials, and 156 million of that came from the food and body care hemp products that are sold. Now I'd like to turn your attention to pages 4 and 5 of the materials that we handed out. There's a lot more information about the economics of hemp. Now in Canada, hemp nets for their farmers $200 to $400 per acre, while in the United States, U.S. soy and corn typically nets less than $160 per acre. So you can see that this is a great economic driver for the agricultural sector. Also, usually hemp is processed within 100 miles of where it's harvested. So that opens up opportunities for all sorts of other hemp-related businesses. Now, the hemp plant, it's a very versatile plant, and it has over 100 uses. Again, I'd like to turn your attention to the materials that we handed out. If you take a look at page 6, I believe, you'll see a diagram of the hemp plant, and you'll see the various uses that the hemp plant can yield. So hemp fibers have been used to manufacture twine, paper, building materials, carpeting, clothing, animal bedding, and the hemp seeds have been used in making industrial oils, cosmetics, and medicines also. As Jerry was explaining, hemp is not marijuana. There's two components to the hemp plant. One is the THC, which is the part that gets you high. And the hemp plant has little to no THC. However, it's very high in the other component, which is CBDs, and it is the CBDs that have the healing properties. So hemp seeds, hemp oil is used in a lot of nutraceuticals, I believe is the term.
And pharmaceutical.
And pharmaceutical, thank you. And hemp oil can also be used as a biofuel, which is my particular personal interest in it. Now, if we create an industrial hemp industry in our state, it opens up economic opportunity for growers, processors, manufacturers of value-added products such as hemp-based foods and non-toxic building materials and automotive parts. There would also be economic opportunity for distributors and retailers of hemp-based products. So again, we're here to ask your support in the 2015 legislative session. In order for New Mexico to take advantage of the opportunities presented by hemp, we need to have a long list that will allow us to grow test plots. So I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Lombard from New Mexico State University, and he'll address that. Thank you.
Madam Chair and representatives and senators, thank you for the opportunity to present before this committee. I first wanted to thank the state legislatures for their support of New Mexico State University and the Agricultural Science Center. I'm based up at the Agricultural Science Center in Farmington, and we're one of several research farms that are scattered throughout the state. We have a very mixed clientele up in Farmington. We deal with small-scale producers in the Animas, San Juan, and the Plata River valleys, but we also work extensively on the Navajo Nation, and our farm is actually surrounded by the Navajo Agricultural Products Industry Farm, which is a 80,000 to 100,000 acre commercial farm operation with large-scale combiners and harvesting equipment and processing equipment for other crops. My area of research is horticulture, specialty crop evaluations. I work with wine grapes and table grapes to help support our state, mainly the northern half of the state wineries, those interested in growing their own crops. I'm also working with hops to try to help support our growing statewide craft brew industry, which nationwide craft brewing is now at $14 billion a year. And there's a subsector of craft brewers that are interested in local products. And so, this is an idea of kind of what I do at our facility, and there's other researchers like me across the state that are evaluating all types of different crops. And so we have clientele like the folks here who have requested, agronomic and horticultural evaluations, economic evaluations, from a rigorous scientific standpoint, doing replicated plots, statistical analysis, and really trying to evaluate specific crops for particular climates. And hemp is, industrial hemp is no exception. In the scientific arena, the American Society for Horticultural Sciences just recently had their annual national conference in Orlando, Florida. And for the first time ever during this conference, there was actually an hour plus set aside in a breakout session for a scientific discussion on industrial hemp. And so the states that are passing legislation to allow researchers to evaluate the merits or maybe the lack, or maybe not the merits, putting science behind something is either dispelling or proving a theory or a hypothesis. So the scientific community in the horticulture world is definitely starting to have that discussion now on how can industrial hemp be rigorously evaluated. In this particular session, there is a representative from Kentucky State University. Kentucky successfully enacted state legislation in 2013 that allowed for the importation of seed from Italy. They imported 6 cultivars for evaluation and variety trials throughout the state under conventional and certified organic cropping systems. And the information that's being yielded is, very basic and cursory, looking at yields, looking at oil, seed content, looking at whether industrial hemp might serve as a cover crop and a crop rotation. Obviously, in certified organic production systems, it's important to have different types of cover crops, and industrial hemp is being examined for that in Kentucky. I'd like to mention that the bill in Kentucky received bipartisan support. Mitch McConnell, Senators Mitch McConnell and Brandon Paul were supportive at the federal level. And probably through their efforts and bipartisan efforts, what got the current 2014 Farm Bill legislation, which provides research facilities and researchers if you might be interested at the land grant or state university college system to examine industrial hemp in variety trials. And so this is fairly significant legislation. At the federal level, it's being recognized not the non-narcotic side of the cannabis sativa plant, and that's what I'm basically presenting that they're staying ready, researchers that are ready to put some rigorous science behind something, as long as there's a legal framework, the legal permitting, any kind of regulations, as long as that's present, researchers might be willing to examine this crop in a very rigorous manner.
With that, here's Ruth Farquhar. She's an entrepreneur and a business owner of House Hemp Products.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. The United Nations this year in 2014 declared the International Year of Family Farming. They wanted to illuminate the global role that smallholder farmers have in eradicating hunger and poverty by providing security and nutrition, improve livelihoods, and achieve sustainable living. It is time to talk about cannabis hemp. I have worked from being a factory worker, a sheep herder, and I am now currently a licensed massage therapist and a hemp entrepreneur. I am called the Hemptress. In 1999, I founded Taos Hemp as a sole proprietor company. I would design, cut, and sew, and sell my bags. Taos Hemp is an e-commerce store. It does manufacture, wholesale, and retail through PayPal at the website taoshemp.com. And we are open to others selling our dairy hemp products on our website. Whole Foods commissioned and retailed the Dharma bags, which is my main product, in 5 locations. This led me to take the hemp manufacture out of the country to Romania, which was manufacturing at the time in 2005. It was close to, I would say, 40% of the hemp textiles in the country at the time. Now they are not doing that. China is the largest hemp producer of hemp textile in the world. So now, since 2010, Taos Hemp has become an LLC. I have a seamstress from San Cristobal, New Mexico, and myself am the dyer in the company. We have no waste of textiles in our products. The importation of the goods with the broker fees to get the textile in from China is cost prohibitive. Wholesale prices are very hard to manage. Now, when I use hemp in the company, it's because the bast fiber is superior to any other fiber in strength. It offers UV protection, mildew, rot resistance, dye permeability, and it wicks the moisture, similar to wool. And for the food, hemp is the second highest protein next to soy with 25% and 30% of the good fat. The ratio of the EFAs, which are the essential fatty acids we need to get in our brains and bodies, is a perfect ratio of 369. Now, the TCED at Taos and all the community economic development kitchens throughout New Mexico can be the incubators for entrepreneurs to make healthy products such as the hemp milk I have provided up here for your coffee, the gourd, the energy bars, chocolate, salad dressings, energy drinks, ice cream, and even beer. So the breweries, the home breweries will like that. For good health, our bodies take in hemp into our body with hemp care products, as Vicki has mentioned. There's the hemp medicine is the hemp CBDs that are found. There's no THC, as we have said. The CBDs are now being researched in England and Canada for their use in anti-inflammatory disease, immune system boosting, antidepressant, and especially in the public news these days, is as an anti-seizure medicine. Medicine in hemp is also for the soil. It is used as a phytoremediation plant. In Chernobyl, Ukraine, since 1989, they have planted hemp to cure their soils from the iodine, the cesium, the strontium, and the plutonium heavy metals. What happens, hemp takes up the heavy metals into the stalk and disperses it into the leaves. We have the Quest Chevron mine molybdenum tailings up in western New Mexico that are being looked at to be remediated. This can be done with hemp. There are 1,000+ acres in western New Mexico that could have healthy soils over time. There is a company in Colorado now called Hemp Cleans. It is cleaning up benzenes and toluenes with hemp. The hemp can sequester the carbon, so on a large scale, on a very large scale, it can help our air, water, and our soils. There are many potential green New Mexico businesses that can be provided here. And the building materials are brought home very well to our attention through the movie called Bringing It Home. It was just released last year, 2013, by Booker and Johnson. And it addresses how homes are so much of our health. And England is already building office buildings, homes, apartments out of hemp. And what they call this is a hempcrete. It's hemp stalks fiber that are mixed with lime and water. It's a very light substance, and the blessing is there's no toxicity. It is a negative carbon output in building materials. Mercedes, Chrysler are all building car panels out of hemp, insulation and particle board. No off-gassing, as we get from the wood products that are commonly used in our houses for particle board, composites, and fiberglass. There is a USA company in Indiana called Flex Form Technology that are producing some of these items. And as Vicki mentioned, the fuel, hemp is the largest biomass on the planet. Hemp fuel is made with a process called gasification. There is a Colorado man named Aguadas who has a patented system on this process. The pulp and paper is very important. Hemp is very rich in cellulose, 77%. It won't bleed into our rivers and streams. There is a new world pulp mill that was invented by a Ukrainian Dr. Krotov and an American from California named John Stahl. This pulp mill can process hemp, gnat, flax, straw, and it uses very little water. I have no disclosures. They are available to study the mill in detail for New Mexico. Wood pulp is known
I'm here, and it's not a drug, not hemp.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to talk about one other civil law that the federal government has. And technically, it's not illegal to possess marijuana. And hemp, is the marijuana plant. What it's illegal to possess is marijuana or hemp that you have not paid the tax on. And the tax is $2,000 an ounce. So not only can they seize your land, they can fine you at $2,000 an ounce. So I think you need to change federal law first, because the liability for whoever grows it, and I brought this up on the medical marijuana part, whoever grows that is in a huge position, not only to be prosecuted federally, but civilly by the federal government.
In the state of, Madam Chair, members of the committee, the state of Colorado, I believe the Attorney General Holder exempted Colorado from some of the problems, some of the financial problems you're talking about, both Colorado and Washington. They were allowed to do banking and allowed to put this money in the bank now, I believe.
Mr. Chairman, and what has happened is this administration has, if you will, kind of taken hands off of the prosecution civilly and criminally of marijuana. That doesn't mean the next one will, but currently they have seen an increase in the marijuana use problems, and thus next year, and I forget what it is, it's like $400 million they're going to spend on education of the entire United States about marijuana use.
Madam Chairman and committee, the National Farmers Union, a large organization in our country, has stated very emphatically in their bylaws that they want the Justice Department to remove industrial hemp off the Controlled Substance Act. There is a movement here. This was added to the Farm Bill, as Jerry had mentioned, that special number to the bill to say that has to be removed. It cannot be, criminal to grow industrial hemp for a farmer.
And Mr. Chairman, just on that point, they're also the group that pushed ethanol as part of the fuel, strictly so that they could farm more land and increase the profits off those lands, which is exactly what they want to do with the hemp. So I understand that.
We're also looking, Madam Chair, members of the committee, we're also looking at as an alternative crop to some of these crops that are really water. They take quite a bit of water. Hemp is not that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. First individual, well, colleague.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, panelists. I just want to make sure that I understand what the coalition's efforts and are at this point, and then what they'd like to see. What I understand from the information that we received today is that the coalition would like to pursue further research and development to examine the viability of industrial hemp use in the state of New Mexico. Is that correct?
Correct.
So in your material, Madam Chair and panelists, in your material, you made that very, very clear. And I think there's a letter also from the New Mexico State University Associate Dean for Research, who also emphasizes very well that there is a need to further study the use. And so as part of the Economic Development and Rural Committee, Interim Committee, that's why you're here today. Am I correct?
Correct, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair and panelists. So it's very clear in all the material that's been presented to us, and even in the course of discussion, that there's a lack of clarity, a lack of understanding, a lack of scientific research and development, even on our part, because already the discussion has been gone and taken off into another direction concerning federal laws on marijuana, and what we're hearing today is the coalition's attempt to bring forth further research and development on this topic. And so it makes it more apparent to me that we need to have this further investigation and research and development, but especially with a significant input and direction provided by, for example, the institution of New Mexico State, who is a premier institution recognized nationally for their innovative and creative agricultural, pursuit of agricultural products and marketing and dissemination. And so it makes sense to me that in order to dispel the continued misunderstanding of the relationship between, or the distinction between what marijuana is and how it's associated as a controlled substance and the legal ramifications associated with that. That's one whole different, entirely different discussion versus what you're proposing today and what you've provided us today, and what some of us, I think, have some understanding of what industrial hemp is and has been internationally, and the history behind the use of industrial hemp since the beginning of time, so that we know it. So I appreciate the fact that you've gone to the length that you have in providing the detail that you have to try to provide clarity, because that is the purpose of having us have these discussions at this interim level, so that when we do get to the larger scale, our hope is that there is a much more thorough understanding of the issues when we bring them for policy development at our larger legislative house. So that was all I wanted to make sure that we were clear of what we were discussing here today and what was presented to us. And I appreciate the fact that MMSU is involved and is interested in being involved, because if the research and development indicates and results in showing that industrial hemp can be an economic plus for, especially for our rural communities, then I would love to have that endorsement from New Mexico State University, which is our premier agricultural university. So I hope that the coalition continues to engage the university, and that the department doesn't, in any form or fashion, get dissuaded or in any way disinterested because of the fact that we fail to make a clear distinction between what marijuana and industrial hemp is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one question on page 6 of this. This is the handout. I'm just curious, because I understand what we're talking about, hemp as a industrial product and something we can grow and harvest to make additional products. But I just have one question on the, right above the hemp legal issues. It says, if one does not understand pollen dissemination, the fact that high area use was, okay, wait. THC is an artificial construct of human culture. What is that? What does that mean?
I'm not following where you're at.
Okay, so on page 6, right, the little sentence right before him, legal issues.
Representative, could you read part of that sentence, maybe?
Okay, so it says THC is an artificial construct of human culture. One could make these erroneous assumptions. However, after reviewing the science, these assumptions are no longer valid.
Yeah, I'm not in a position to comment on this. I was asked to write the economic section with my MSU colleagues, so, and the author of this section would have to provide clarity on that. So.
That's okay, but thank you. No, that's fine. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Hello. Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, just to be clear, I'm catching the arguments between marijuana and industrial. But right now, what I guess we did is we could plan industrial hemp in certain circumstance as research to determine whether or not we'd be able to make a product or a crop here in New Mexico. However, I guess there's still two things that stand in the way of ever being able to really do it, and one is the listing, and the other is the law. And I guess there's a couple of bills, and one in the House, one in the Senate, and could you guys comment on what the status of those particular bills is? I believe it's Senate Bill 359, and it was introduced by Senator Paul and some others. And are they, is there movement on them? Are they dead? What is happening with them?
Madam Chair, from what I understand, through Vote Hemp and working with them, the national organization in DC, that these bills are still very active. I have been gathering, and others, many of us have been gathering signatures to endorse the bills. They have part of a summary, and this addresses the Controlled Substance Act, which, if you may permit me, I would like to read. It's a summary, HR 525. Industrial Hemp Farming Act of 2013 amends the Controlled Substances Act to exclude industrial hemp from the definition of marijuana. Defines industrial hemp to mean the plant, cannabis, sativa, L, and any part of such plant, whether growing or not, with a delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol concentration of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. Deems cannabis sativa L to meet that concentration limit if a person grows or processes it for purposes of making industrial hemp in accordance with state law. That is part of the bill.
Chair, the issue is, I guess, it's still active, but it's not been heard or not, obviously not passed.
No, not passed.
So that's where it is. So, Madam Chair and Chair, thank you very much for letting me comment on that. And I want to make one other quick comment, because I really do appreciate the representative from Royal County for recognizing the preeminence of New Mexico State.
very well, so I just have a real couple of questions. On this brochure, I guess you would say on the second page, where you mentioned how tall the plants grow, they seem to be very far apart. Is that how it works?
No. Industrial hemp is grown very densely together. Within a square foot range, there are 20, 30 plants.
Very well. Then the other question that I was going to ask you is, I think it was Mr. Fuentes, you mentioned that right now, currently, I guess there is a trade from other countries. How much you said that is going to the United States to bring it here?
In 22, there's $500 million worth of hemp imported to the state, into the country of the United States from other countries by entrepreneurs from the United States to create products of hemp in the United States. They bring in the raw hemp, the fibers, or the oils, and they create products here, and then they resell them here. If we could grow it here, that $500 million industry would remain here in the United States. We wouldn't be sending that money to Turkey or to China or to Canada. It would remain here with us.
Then the other part that was mentioned is, you mentioned Canada.
Yes, sir.
There was no mention of Mexico.
It's not legal in Mexico, no.
Representative Gonzalez and Madam Chair, I'd like to just mention that the food, the hemp seed, and the oil products, such as Nutiva Bits, which is an American company, Dr. Runners, as has been mentioned, Living Harvest with milk, that all comes from Canada. We get that. However, the car parts, the building products, have to come from the EU, mainly Germany and England right now, and France and Spain. They're the ones doing those things. And then the textile is mainly coming, of course, from China. They have 90% of the business. They are doing many blends with hemp. Instead of just pure hemp, they're combining it with cotton, silks, rayons, etc. So we have 3 different areas we have to import from. It's very costly. You can imagine importing building materials from Germany. And in the film I mentioned, Bringing It Home, this is the focus. A lot of the movie is on the building. And it has been brought into North Carolina. There are 2 people in North Carolina who have built homes completely out of hemp.
You would go, Senator Martinez.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that I think Mexico is a little bit behind the curve here. I think we've studied it. We had memorials in 2009. We had a task force in 2012. We have studied this issue for quite a few years, and I think Mexico is behind the curve. I think we have restudied it and restudied it, and the reality is that these products have been produced for very many years. I mean, you can go to any Walgreens or CVS and find hemp lotions and shampoos and all kinds of hemp products, and I think that Mr. Fuentes and the committee members are absolutely correct. I think that money could be generated here in Mexico and stay here, and we could be generating some money by using this product, and I completely support your efforts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Martinez,
Madam Chair, members of the committee, if I may respond to what Senator Martinez said, thank you very much. We are here because there are currently 10 states in the union that are complying with the provisions that were included in the Farm Bill, and they're able to grow test crops. We want the opportunity to be able to do the same thing. We believe that it would be a huge benefit for our agricultural community, for our next generation of farmers. It's a sustainable product. There's a huge market for it. So we really appreciate your support and your consideration. And believe me, Senator, Representative, I understand the issues because I don't want to lose my ranch. But I also want something that is going to keep my next generation in the agricultural sector. And so, if you all, thank you very much for your consideration. We would like to be able to compete, or at least be on a level playing field with the other 10 states that are also starting to test plots. Thank you.
Senator Martinez, you done?
Thank you.
This is the last question that I would have is, has there been a hold on for Mexico as far as support or support?
Madam Chair, Representative, no, as far as I know, there has not been a hold on. And, we also are struggling with the issue of the difference between hemp and marijuana. And a lot of people, when you say hemp, people automatically think it's stuff that gets you high. So it would be an interesting position for us to be in, to try and figure out how to hold, so that people actually understand that we're talking about industrial hemp, not marijuana.
Madam Chair and Committee and Representative Gonzalez, to that effect, when Governor Johnson was our governor, I went to meet him at the Open Door and introduced hemp and hemp products to him. I gave him at that time 1,500 signatures endorsing industrial hemp. Throughout the years, we do endorsements and get signatures. And as I said, with Vote Hemp, we've done this on a federal level, but we have not taken the poll specifically for New Mexico. But these Hemp History Week events that happen usually the first week of June every year, this is the opportunity that we can take and gather signatures for the federal level. And if there is a way, as Mickey has said, that we can have people define this issue, that it is industrial hemp. Cannabis is two sides. It's the hemp side and it's the medical side. And this is very different.
Thank you all. I'm sure we want to thank you very much for your presentation.
Well, thank you also. And I'd like to add that in this upcoming legislation period, we will be bringing a hemp law that will only coincide with the federal law in the Farm Bill. We don't want to pass it any further than we want it to make sure that we do comply with all of the conditions in the federal law that allows us to do test plots. We'd like to do that this coming year. And we thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.